That was not a common Bengals W, and not getting W's is going to be all too common for the rest of the Cincinnati Bengals 2023 season. What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here for Common Bengals W. I was at the game live today. Cincinnati Bengals lose one at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers 16-10. It was a hideous game, both physically and on the field. Terrible weather. I would say that the weather was just nasty. Like I can handle the cold, even though it sucks, but the weather was just nasty today. It was gross. It was not a good time. This was, there's a lot to get into, but this was a perfect example of the two seasons that these two teams are having. The Pittsburgh Steelers find ways to win games like this. The Cincinnati Bengals find ways to lose games like this. And yet another game, less than one possession, 6 points, the Bengals could have won. Probably should have won. If Joe Burrow was playing today, they would have won. They would have ran the ball more. Perhaps they would have won. Let's talk about the star of today's show, Jake Browning. Jake Browning, first career start. He was in the hot seat this year. He had been the backup last year. And then in training camp, they brought in Trevor Siemian because a lot of what the Bengals wanted was something that the Bengals still might need. Bengals fans at least wanted an experienced quarterback who had started in the league and won in the league. And they brought in Trevor Siemian, and Trevor Siemian got beat out by Jake Browning for that job. However, it has become abundantly clear. By the way, if you're here in the live chat, do what Cody James is doing. Send a chat. We'll be talking about this. But it became abundantly clear this year after Joe Burrow had an ACL injury year one. He had the appendix, missed the camp. He had the calf and missed the camp. And now the wrist injury. The Bengals need not a just guy to be a backup quarterback. They need a good backup quarterback. They need a guy that looks like he might be able to start for 3-4 teams in the league. That's what they need. They need to run too deep at least. So Jake Browning, while he was sitting under the learning tree of Joe Burrow, so to speak, is now playing for his job next year. He is auditioning for this team next year. Now, ideally, best case scenario is he turns out to be Brock Purdy and Bengals are going to the playoffs still. That's not happening. One of the promising things I saw from the Thursday game was in one half, Jake Browning ran for half as many yards as Burrow had all season. Well, Burrow had dealt with a bad wheel. Today, we didn't see that scrambling ability nearly as much, maybe one play. Instead, what we saw was Jake Browning stationary, getting knocked over, sacked, making bad throws, repeated bad throws, and still somehow by the end of the day, if you just looked at the stat line, you would say, not so bad, huh? Well, let's break this down. Costly pick. Very, very costly pick in the red zone for Jake Browning. Could have cost the Bengals the game. That pick took at least 3 points off the board at minimum. Likely could have taken 7 off the board the way they were moving the ball up the field. 6-point game. That probably cost the Bengals. Jake Browning went 19 of 26. However, one interception, as mentioned, a fumble, a really bad fumble where he just held onto the ball too long. So 2 very questionable decisions there. Actually, there were 3 that really stood out. The pick was bad. Let a corner undercut the route. Bam, just stole it. The fumble was him holding onto the ball too long. And then there was a sack. And he just stared at the person running at him and tried to pump fake, and then bam, got knocked out. He got sacked 4 times. So he's 19 of 26, 73%, and that looks impressive, right? Well, you also have to, and that is impressive. No matter what, 73% completion percentage is impressive in the NFL. It's impressive for a starter in the NFL. However, it should have been about 65%, which still in the NFL, pretty good, pretty damn good. For a backup, great. 2 of those passes probably should have been picks. One of them should have been a pick six, but we have Jamar Chase. And that's the difference. Jamar Chase had 2 deflected passes that could have been intercepted and took them and made them first downs. Jake Browning was not nearly mobile enough during this game. Not nearly mobile enough. What I saw that I liked out of him most in the Ravens game was that he was willing to scramble. Now, I know that today you had those terrible field conditions. It was rainy, it was nasty. But again, we didn't see any semblance of the run game like looking like it was going to be something worth writing home about. We'll talk about that, but the Bengals went into this game with a very beatable Pittsburgh Steelers that they should have beaten. If that pick doesn't happen, honestly, I think the Bengals probably win today. I think they were going to score a touchdown there because of the way that they used their tight ends, and we'll talk about that momentarily. And Joseph Boza says, I think the Bengals are in that spot where they have to win out. Yes, and they're not going to win out. The playoff hopes are dashed. At least there was some fleeting hope of, can Jake Browning become Brock Purdy? No. Is he solid? Yeah, I think he's okay for what we've got right now. And I don't think that drafting a QB is the right idea, because I think you need a veteran there, whether it be a Gardner Minshew or whatever that may be. See who falls off this year. See who falls out of favor from a starting job this year. Would love it if Dalton came back. Don't know if he would. Cody says, who'd be the best vets available? Flacco getting Matt Ryan away from the booth. I think it's better for the Bengals to suck for draft pick help. Well, they're not going to intentionally lose. The Bengals are not going to intentionally lose, and their players won't. I think right now, Jake Browning is the best option. And the reason I think that he's the best option is because he's been with the team for a couple of years. He won the job in camp. He looked decent for a backup today. That 73% completion percentage is very misleading. He made 5 possibly costly mistakes. A lot. And Cody Jane says, counting on a backup to be Brock Purdy, it's like asking Yokozuna to do a 60-man Ironman match. He'll give it a proper go, but he doesn't have the most hope. Exactly. I'm at least optimistic the Bengals are going to pick up a couple wins this season. They're facing a few backup quarterbacks at home along the way. And here's where I think they're going to run into some trouble is the inconsistency of Joe Mixon. Frank Pollock's scheme sucks ass. It's bad. It ain't good. They only ran the ball 8 times in the rain with Joe Mixon, and he couldn't break off more than 4 yards. He caught the ball well. He's a great catching back, but he is not getting the reps in situations where he should get the reps. For example, the Bengals should have been running the ball 15 to 20 times the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season when Joe Burrow was hurt. However, they telegraphed it and made it abundantly clear to everybody that was paying attention that they weren't going to be doing that. And now with a backup quarterback in the rain, running the ball 8 times with Joe Mixon. Cody says, what's more stressful, Punk news or the Bengals? Punk news by far. I'll get bummed out about the Bengals, but it is my entertainment is what the Bengals are. Like that is my escape from wrestling and all that. I love wrestling, but I mean, if you're watching this and you know my day job, you know how much I work. I'm working every damn day. So this is my escape from that. And all this, my escape from that. Joe Mixon is certainly in a situation where he is possibly playing for his job as well. And I'm going to pull up, Zach Taylor defended him, and they were very, they're very supportive of him, but he's very inconsistent. Let's start his yards per game average. By the way, he hasn't broken more than 87. Hasn't had more than 87. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns all season. 4 all season. 4.3, 4.5, 3.4, 4.8. Now, that was at a time when he should have been running a lot more. 4.8, 3.2, 5.4, 2.6, 4.2, 4.3, 2.0. You've got 5 games under 3.5 yards per carry, and that's tough. It's hard for them to count on you when you're doing that. But if that's the case, why isn't somebody else getting the reps? Why not somebody else? Why not give somebody else a crack at it? They gave Jordan Battle a lot more cracks at it today. That made me happy. By the way, the Bengals defense still sucks ass. It's still terrible. I'll tell you what bothers me, man. You had a lot of, man, I hate to call them out like this. You had a lot of the popular Cincinnati sports accounts that'd be like, oh, this defense, Lou Anarumo is going to get some. Lou Anarumo ain't getting hired nowhere for head coaching jobs this year. Coached out of contention. Another 400-plus yard situation. And what did I say a month ago? I said that the Cincinnati Bengals defense is bipolar because they give up these massive yardage situations. They lead charges up the field. And then what happens is a miracle turnover in the red zone, usually in field goal range. And that happened again today. That kept them in the game. Happened again today. The Bengals secondary somehow gets diced. DJ Reader's probably gone after this year. You got to rework the defensive line. You have to rework the defensive line. And you might be able to free up some money doing that. Awuzie is not the Awuzie we once knew and loved. And I know Cody's saying they only give up 16 points. It doesn't matter, bro. They're giving up 400-plus yards with regularity. With regularity. I'm going to check out the team stats right now. NFL team stats. Because the defensive stats of the Cincinnati Bengals are just miserable. It is, it's rough. It's really rough. Sorry for the dead air right now. The Bengals, yards per attempt given up, worst in the NFL. Worst in the NFL. Can't happen, man. They've got such impactful defensive players, and they just can't make it work. They cannot make it work. And Connor says, meanwhile, Jesse Bates is loving life in ATL. Listen, I would have loved to have kept Jesse Bates. I really would have. But Cam Taylor-Britt is a phenom. He's great. It didn't make sense for them to keep Jesse Bates, but I wish they would have found a way, if anybody, because that is the guy they're missing the most, is that guy who stops things before 20-yard gains are broken off. And the Bengals suck on third down. They are trash on third down. Just really, really miserable on it. Nick Scott ain't going to be back next year. Ain't going to happen. But Jordan Battle, Myles Murphy getting more snaps. Lou Anarumo ain't getting hired for a job. The Bengals defense is bad. They find a way to make stops and get people just out of field goal range. But goddamn, they will give up 50 every single drive. Crazy that the Bills and the Bengals might miss the playoffs this year. NFL is weird. Well, the Bengals, I feel like, are only going to miss the playoffs because Burrow got hurt and because T got hurt. Injuries are what kept the Bengals out. Otherwise, I think the Bengals were going to go on a run. Bengals need an OC play caller badly. Get that out of Zach Taylor's hands. But here's what I want to know. After the abysmal play calling that we saw all throughout the season, especially with line of scrimmage passes, riddle me this. Why, with a significantly less accurate, significantly less talented, and significantly less experienced Jake Browning, all of a sudden have so many of these line of scrimmage passes just vanished? And what happens when they vanish? Wait, Jake Browning still completes passes at a 73% clip? You don't say. Well, why is that? Riddle me that. Why is it that a guy like Jake Browning can go for 73%? Because he's throwing 9 passes to tight ends. You know, the position that they let Hayden Hurst walk away from, and understandably so, because he's going to make a lot more money this year. Didn't make a lot of sense. However, they're going by committee now. They did not value the tight end position. They did not utilize the tight end position until midway through this season. Now, keep in mind, what do tight ends do? Quick passes over the middle. How could that have benefited the Bengals earlier this year? I don't know. Maybe when a guy named Joe Burrow had an injured calf, couldn't drop back, needed to release the ball really quickly, and instead they went for dog shit line of scrimmage and behind the line of scrimmage passes, screen passes, swing passes, all that stuff. What they could have done, gone quick pass over the middle, cut through with Tanner Hudson, Mitchell Wilcox, Drew Sample, who scored a touchdown today, Irv Smith, who has stepped it up significantly. The Bengals tight end committee has been fantastic for the amount of money that they have spent on it. And everybody was screaming at the beginning of this season, draft a tight end, get that weapon. They got Miles Murphy, had a great game today, by the way, got a sack, one of his best rushes of the year. But so many people were saying, get that tight end, draft that tight end. Dink and dunk passes to the QB's pass completion average, friend. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And Joe Burrow loves those quick passes, by and large, because he's got to make them, because the offensive line just woefully underperforms. Now, today, I don't think that the Bengals offensive line woefully underperformed. I think the quarterback held onto the ball way too long in a number of situations. However, listen, I don't know that much about football, guys. I just really like it. People on Twitter don't know more than the coaches, but all season long and even through last year, you see Twitter pundits and fans saying, why are we going line of scrimmage pass? Why are we doing it? Well, we knew why this year, because Joe Burrow is hurt. And Joe Burrow needed to get rid of the ball quick, and because the offensive line sucks. But guess what? These are professional football players playing tight end. You want to guess what the percentage? Well, you know what? I don't know what the percentage was, but they went 8 out of 9. 8 out of 9, 88% to tight ends today. And they just discovered this in the last 4 games. Tanner Hudson's good. Bring him back next year. If you can get him for less than $4 million, bring that guy back next year. He's doing great. They should have valued the tight end position. I'm not saying pay Hayden Hurst a bunch of money or anything like that. I'm saying draft a guy. Draft a guy with good hands, especially. That's why I was so excited about Hayden Hurst more than CJ Uzama, was that Hayden Hurst's catching percentage, his catch rate was so high. And that's what we need, because Burrow's going to fire that ball. It's going to come quick. And if you have great hands, well, you can make stuff happen. And Hayden Hurst was very reliable. But look at that. As a result of the tight end play, they don't have to do as many screen passes and swing passes, line of scrimmage passes. Jamar Chase is incredible. We are so lucky to be able to watch this guy. He's so good. He's so unbelievable. Can't wait till he gets the longest extension possible. Can't wait. He caught 2 that should have been picks, saved it. I hope he gets the receptions record for the Bengals this year. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. He's going to need probably 6 a game now. And with Burrow, that's going to be tougher. Or without Burrow, it's going to be tougher. Higgins still out. Boyd didn't do a lot. There's no clear replacement for Boyd right now. I think that the clear replacement for Boyd is throwing the ball to the tight ends more. I think that is the replacement for Boyd. I don't think that Boyd's replacement should be a wide receiver as much as it is, planning for a tight end or planning around the tight end position. Higgins, well, if they don't bring him back, he's not replaceable in that manner. Now, I do think that if they keep Trenton Irwin, he finds a way to slide in there, and he's always a threat just because he's so good at stepping up. But I mean, he's not necessarily the threat. He's not going to strike fear in the hearts of people like a T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd. But Jones and Yoshivas aren't that yet. Aren't that quite yet. There were some promising things that I saw today, but I mean, this was just symbolic of the Bengals season, a game that they could have won and should have won, and they didn't win. They should have beat the Ravens. They should have beat the Texans. They should have beat the Steelers. The Ravens first go around. All this should have happened. Bengals are 5-6 instead of 8-3 as a result. They're 8-3 right now, winning those games that they should have won, could have won. Well, you know what? You get another win or two, you're in the playoffs. But they ain't making the playoffs this year. And the NFL is so mid this year, the Bengals will probably end up with a pick outside the top 10 just because they already won 5 games. Already thinking about next year, obviously. I'll say this. I don't think Jake Browning did anything to hurt his case for being on this team next year. Actually, I think he helped his case by playing a very similar way to what Joe Burrow played his last couple of games. And by that, I don't mean as far as success. I mean getting rid of the ball fairly quickly, making quick passes, and being accurate. Common Bengals W. We'll be coming at you guys next time very, very late on a Monday night. Monday Night Football, Jacksonville Jaguars, AEW owner Tony Khan's team. I haven't even rewatched this game on TV. Haven't rewatched the highlights. So that's the first time I've not done that for a Common Bengals W stream. But I want to thank those of you that are that joined me for this, my fun little vanity project. For those of you that follow my day job in wrestling, you know how intense this week has been. I've got my first wrestling match in years this Saturday. If you're in Chicago area, let me know. I would love to see you there, but not a Common Bengals W whatsoever. Kind of sucks. Till next time, guys. We're out.